Hi everyone, welcome to Marketing Mondays. We're back, and today we've got our Q&A, which I'm excited about because I love a Q&A. So I'm just going to give it a little minute for people to get on board, sort my crazy hair out. I don't know what's going on here today, but we're here. It's Monday. We're excited for another working week, and we've got a short weekend planned. Hopefully, for all my fellow business owners out there, I hope you're taking the bank holidays off and having a nice Easter weekend. So we've only got 4 days to get through. So I am here to do marketing Q&A. Very excited, love doing Q&As. So we've had a few submissions through the Google form. And if you are coming and you haven't seen the Google form, fear not, you can pop your questions in the chat box and I will be happy to answer them as we spend half an hour together looking at more reactive things rather than looking at strategy or keywords or any of the other things that we've looked at previously. Hello, happy Monday to Godventure, who's joining us on YouTube. Great to have you all with me today. So on our Marketing Mondays, I've got a few questions, so I'm going to open those out and get started. While I answer people's questions, feel free to add in any of your own in the chat box below. So Kaylee has got her question to begin with, which is, what are the key areas to focus on within marketing to grow interest in your company and get them towards your website? So I'm going to pop that in this. Here we go. So this is the question from Kaylee. So Kaylee has added some additional information as well, and she has been working on redesigning her website and doing some different development and things like that. And her question really is, how can she improve her marketing to increase awareness of what her company is about, what it's trying to achieve, and the sustainability of the products? So this is a great question to kick us off. So Kaylee, if you haven't watched the marketing strategy Marketing Monday, I highly recommend getting stuck into that because it's really helpful looking at the approach of not only where your brand wants to go, but also the individual channels that we use in order to get there. So when it comes to focusing on your marketing, the top tip that I would have for anyone joining is that you have at least one short-term and one long-term marketing channel within your overarching marketing strategy. So one of the things that somebody in my community said was what I didn't realize about my lack of sales was that I wasn't doing marketing. And like, as soon as I started to do marketing, then I started to make more sales. And so often when we're faced with the idea of like growing our business, actually all we need to do is just start doing marketing. And so the easiest way to break that down in a way that is consistent with long-term goals for your brand as well is to make sure that you're focusing on something that's going to bring in short-term results so that you've got cash flow to keep your business sustainable financially, but also to engage with your audience and make sure that you're having those conversations with people. And then the long-term side of things can be something like email marketing, search engine optimization, blogging. I always like to take an SEO first approach to marketing because it embeds your long-term in with your short-term. And so when you're looking at the long-term stuff as well, that's basically putting things in place that are going to generate revenue for your business and growth for your business that is scalable beyond your time, because a lot of short-term marketing is really fixed on the idea of our personal time being spent doing it. So when it comes to growing interest in your company and getting people towards your website, do check out that marketing strategy replay. It's on YouTube and in my Facebook group, on my Facebook page, I think as well. But that's going to be really helpful for you when it comes to making some of those marketing decisions as well. So with the next question, we've got some questions from Amy. So I'm going to paste these into my YouTube comments so that I can share them on the screen. So I'm going to just put some little air quotes around that so that we know it's from Amy. And then this is our next question as well. So Amy has said, regarding headline product names, would it be okay for SEO to say brand plus product name? So golf hybrid plus gender plus waterproof golf jacket. Would the use of golf twice negatively affect SEO? So with your product names, the product name on your website doesn't need to be this long. So the product name on your website is just going to probably be waterproof golf jacket or women's waterproof golf jacket. But you don't need to have all of that in your SEO title, in your product title on your website, but you do probably want to include it in your SEO title, which is where you add that into your SEO settings. So just to be clear there, we're not wanting to put really long titles on every single page of our website when we're setting that up, but you can you definitely use golf twice if it's in two different contexts. If you're saying like golf jacket, product name golf hybrid, I'm not 100% sure what that is because I don't know much about the golf industry, but it's not going to negatively affect it if it's contextual to that particular phrase, so don't worry too much about that one. So that is a great question. Thanks, Amy. And I know that you had a second one as well. So here we go with this one. Do I need an intrusive cookie banner on my website for Google to like me, or with a dedicated privacy policy on my website suffice? So with this, you would need to double check GDPR regulations. I always recommend having cookie banners if you are tracking people on your site, because that is active marketing. So if they're going to be retargeted on other platforms, having that is going to be important, because people need to have the opportunity to opt out of that. So having a cookie banner is recommended if you are tracking, especially for things like Facebook advertising and Google retargeting adverts in particular, but looking into GDPR in a bit more detail for that is recommended, because it kind of depends on what you're doing as well, and what data you're collecting and things like that as well. But the cookie banner is needed if you're doing any kind of tracking where you could potentially store information about that person in order to market to them in the future as well. So thank you for that question as well there, Amy. So here is a question from Miriam, and Miriam has said, you mentioned last week how duplicate content in product descriptions is not great for SEO. Does this apply to duplicate content in general content too? I have a directory website with hundreds of different listings. Yes, so the nature of it is that there are lots of similar pieces of text. Yes, so duplicate content across the web is not a good thing. So it does have an impact. Ideally, you want it to be unique content. I run a marketplace, and we have a lot of duplicate content issues because we don't have enough team capacity to go through and rewrite people's product descriptions and things like that as well. So it's not going to get you a Google penalty unless you're doing it with intentional malice to try and fool the search engine. Unless you've duplicated literally your entire website and not used canonical tags properly, it's not going to be a huge issue. But depending on the structure of your site and how many duplicate warnings are coming up when you're checking your duplicate content on platforms like Siteliner and Copyscape, I would recommend trying to minimize duplications as much as possible. And there are different ways that you can structure your content to minimize that. But duplicate content across your website is problematic. So if you've got lots of pages that have got similar things in, then looking at ways that you can reduce that or try to make the content more unique is beneficial. So with directories, what you can often do is just change your onboarding process slightly for people who list themselves, and ask them to write their own introduction and make sure that they have provided some brand copy for their own businesses. So in terms of directory requirements, that is the approach that I would take there. So then Claire Senior from Curious Pancake. Claire, I am going to answer this more in one of our student Q&As because this is a bigger question. So basically, the the question is, it's too long to copy and paste, but I'm in talks with a marketing company who wants to help me make more sales. Their monthly fee is 1,500, and they say I'd need to spend 2,000 a month in ad fees. They recommend I sign up with them for 3 months, but I read in their T&Cs that if I want to cancel, I have to give them 3 months notice. So essentially I could be tied up with them for 6 months. The monthly fees and ad spend are all really big figures to me. I've previously spent £500 to £600 a month on marketing at the most. They are talking really big figures in sales that they're confident they'd be able to get for me. My gut tells me to give it a go. I have the money to try it for 2 months if I get no extra sales at all, and I trust them about 75%. Obviously in the T's and C's, they don't have the usual. They have the usual. We don't guarantee anything. I really want to outsource my marketing as I have zero time to devote to learning it all. This is the same company that designed my website that I had so much trouble with. Okay, if I thought it might be somebody else, and if it was somebody else, I would have said go for it. But knowing it's the agency who designed your website, do not do it. And I will talk to you more about that on Voxer. But do not do it. Do not do it. Don't commit to it. If you have that budget to spend, I will put you in contact with someone who will absolutely, if any agency is going to deliver, they'll be able to. But I would absolutely not recommend the people that you are looking at doing for anything. Like, I actively tell people to avoid them, because you're not the only person who had a problematic experience. I know someone who spent £12,000 with them and got nothing back. So I would avoid that like the plague. In short, I'm not going to get into any more in the public space, but like when it comes to ads, honestly, any kind of ads management and the sort of outsourcing to an agency. For e-commerce, I highly recommend Amanda Perry. Her Ecom Growth Hub is brilliant. I personally work with their agency Soup, and their team is great. Their communication's brilliant. They're brilliant. So if you're looking for someone to do marketing and outsource it to somebody else, and you have the funds to spend on agency fees, those are the only agency that I've worked with consistently who I feel comfortable to give my own money to. That may change, and I will update you if I find anyone else worth outsourcing to. But that is my feedback for that one. So what is the best website platform to host website builds, maintenance, scalability, SEO to sell your wares from if you want to phase out social media and eBay sales? So for e-commerce, the best platform without a doubt is Shopify. The reason for that is it's really straightforward to use. It's built with e-commerce in mind. So they keep their platform up to date for any conversion rate optimization stuff that goes on. There's loads of apps and plugins that can make it much easier. You don't have the same hosting challenges that you have to manage with something like WordPress. WordPress is open source, so it's just a little bit harder to keep that fully up to date without a developer. So Shopify is my top recommendation for e-commerce. And if you're a service provider, then Squarespace is my favorite out of the box platform for service provision and portfolio sites. Some people do e-commerce on Squarespace as well. It's a great platform. But if you had to choose one, I would always choose Shopify on that as well. I've got a question here from Claire, who is writing copy and content for a small jewelry business. So I'm going to copy and paste this. Here we go. Here we go. This might not actually do in one comment because it's quite a long one. So here we go. But if a piece of jewelry is a keyword, for example, gold pendant necklace, but you want the piece of jewelry to have a name to go more in line with your brand, for example, Beyonce, how can you do both so that the product title is SEO friendly and shows off personality? The second part of the question is, can you please clarify where keywords go on a product page description? So many things online, do they go in the meta description? So with your keyword, yes, you can use your jewelry name on your website. So for instance, Beyonce, although I would not recommend that because she is a personality, and so you basically would be using somebody else's intellectual property if you called your product name that. So I wouldn't recommend that. So you can use internal naming conventions for your products, but they are not going to have any SEO benefit for people who don't know about your brand already. So if you've got really strong brand awareness for a jewelry brand, for instance, and lots of people are searching for the product name because it's already known, then you can use that and optimize that for from an SEO point of view. The one thing that I would say is like gold pendant necklace is quite a generic keyword. So if you have like, if there's other details about the necklace, so for instance, minimal gold pendant necklace or gold pendant necklace with birthstone, like if you can add any qualifiers to that, it's going to be much more findable from an SEO point of view than just gold pendant necklace. Gold pendant necklace is a medium tail keyword. It's likely to have a lot of competition from bigger brands with bigger marketing teams and budgets. So I would recommend that as well. And then in terms of where keywords go on product page descriptions, do check out the product descriptions Marketing Monday recording from last week. And this is also covered in Product Descriptions 101 in much more detail with like screen recordings to show you where to put stuff as well. So do check that out. It's linked on my website. It's like £37, but it'll save you loads of time. So if you haven't done that, then I would recommend doing that if you're working through this, because it will just help clarify where keywords go and show you screen recordings for different platforms as well, so that when you're uploading things, you're feeling totally confident with that. So that's a great question. Thank you heaps for that, Claire. So Liz says, I'm planning on expanding one of my services I offer, and I'm wondering if I should build a standalone site for this rather than my current website. So the benefit of building a standalone site and having a standalone URL is that the keywords that are in your URL are the strongest indicator to Google of that page. So if I had SEO for creative business as my URL, and I saw this happen like 2 years ago. My SEO bundle was originally called SEO for creative business, and I had the URL and I created a sales page. It was a single page website, and I still managed to rank on the #1 spot of Google within like 8 weeks of launching a brand new page, because the keywords were in the URL. So it depends what you're wanting to do, but you can potentially have it as a standalone page on your website that isn't linked in other spaces. It depends like how much of a feature you want this to be. So if this is going to be a product that brings in a large amount of money and that you're going to put quite a lot of marketing effort and resources behind, you might want to build out content specific to that thing. Then potentially having that separate page is going to be beneficial. But otherwise, I don't necessarily see the need for doing that unless you are wanting to just really reinforce the fact that the course is like the URL. So I don't know if this is Liz Mosley or not, but I'm going to pretend it is because Liz has an example that I can use. So Liz has a gift course, and I cannot remember for the life of me what the gift course is called off the top of my head. So let me just find it. But Liz Mosley has a course on how to make animated GIFs for like Instagram, TikTok, how to get approved by Giphy, like the whole process. So for some reason, Liz, if you're watching this, Etsy comes up first for you. So if we go to courses, how to make animated GIFs for Instagram, that would be potentially something that you might want to create a standalone page where it's like makegifsforinstagram.com. And so when someone searches for make gifts for Instagram, you are much more likely to rank at the #1 spot of Google because you've got makegifsforinstagram.com. It's like the source of the URL. So it's easier to rank for something when your root domain matches that search query. So I hope that helps. Okay, so let me go to Amanda. Hey, Amanda. I have had a successful Etsy shop for a long time. I recently opened up my own website and pay an integration app to transfer all the info over. So now I have a clone website with many of the same items and descriptions. I guess I have to rewrite the descriptions and the titles. Yes, you'll need to go through and edit all that content because things that are optimized for Etsy aren't going to be ideal for your website. So I would start with your bestsellers and work your way down from there, because obviously it can feel a bit overwhelming. But I would recommend rewriting as many of them as you are able to, because the duplicate content means that your website won't rank alongside a similar piece of content, in which case that's your Etsy listing. I recently did a campaign via email with excellent opening rates, good click-through rates, but much lower sales than I usually get. I am presuming that I need to improve my messaging, but how do I unpick what to change? Okay, so I'm going to paste this in here and put it up on the Here we go. So this is a great question from Victoria. So when we are doing email marketing, we want to understand why people opted into the email list in the first place. So when I work a lot with like quite big launch clients who are like thought leaders in different spaces, if we're doing a launch, our expectations for conversions would be between 0.5% and 1% of a list, if that list has been built with a specific topic in mind. So let's say I've got 5,000 people on an email list that have all demonstrated an interest in SEO. That means that between 0.5% and 1% of those people are likely to buy an SEO related product from me if I do a launch. So that's 25 to 50 people. So if I want to sell 100 spaces on my course, then I need to have between 10 and 15,000 people on my email list in order for 0.5% to 1% of people to buy that thing. Now, what happens if I start promoting an email marketing course to that list of people who've opted in to receive information about SEO? It's likely, because it's still the online marketing space and because it's likely to have people who trust me on there, that I will make some sales from that promotion because people trust me and because it is a topic that people want to know about. However, I will not be able to expect a 1% conversion rate from that list because their interest is more to do with SEO than email marketing. So my expectations are always going to be lower if the intent behind joining the list has been something other than the product that I'm promoting. So hopefully that makes sense. If you're thinking, and again, Liz Mosley, I hope you don't feel personally attacked. Liz is like a really good friend of mine. She did all my branding. She's a queen. But basically, if we take Liz, for example, Liz had a product business for many years, and she also does branding for people. So if Liz has an email list of people who've bought her products in the past and maybe who she's done branding for, but then so that's a done for you service, but then she promotes her gift course to that list, the people who bought her products in the past might have no interest whatsoever in learning how to make gifts because they're average people who just bought her products because they love them. And the people who she did branding for are maybe more likely to outsource the creation of gifts. So if she sent a gift course, she might get clients asking her to make gifts for them. But unless she intentionally builds a list of people who are interested in this idea of doing things for yourself in that way, then her conversion rates are always going to be a bit lower. So this is relevant, like regardless of your industry. Like if you're building a product-based business and then you suddenly decide to start selling courses, then your audience needs time to understand what that product is all about, and you're taking them back to the start of the customer journey effectively to start nurturing them for that. So hopefully that helps. But just with regards to unpicking it, messaging, yes, but look at your conversion rates, because actually it might be that your conversion rate was higher than 1% of your list, in which case that's above average. So do think about that in more detail as well. So my list is a general list for my business, but my conversion rate was 5%. So maybe I didn't do so badly. Yeah, 5% is a really good conversion rate. The smaller your list, the higher the conversion rate typically might be, but 5 to 10% is like the average for like a really well optimized course launch, for instance, is like 5 to 10% of the launch list. And so when you're doing a product promotion or launch, like if you look at your list, it's like maximum 5 to 10% with a really well designed marketing campaign. So 5% is amazing if you've managed to achieve that. I usually get higher rates. I'm puzzled by the difference in response. So the other part of this is engagement. So if people are engaging with our businesses at different rates at different points in the year, then what we want to look at here is like, were your open rates and click-through rates the same as previously? Is it the product that is what are the different conversion points at play, and what was the same as previous launches that you've done, and what were the points of difference? So we're getting quite granular and looking at like, okay, so my open rates were the same, my conversion rates were the same. My open rates were the same, my click-through rates were the same, my conversion rate wasn't. So is that a product problem? Is it a messaging problem? Is it a pricing problem? Is it an expectation problem? But then going back there, it might be that your open rates were lower. So then it's like, okay, well, what time of day did I send the email? What else is going on in the world around? Is anyone else in my space doing a lot of marketing at the moment? Because if there's a lot of other people, also like Black Friday is an example of this, lots and lots and lots of people are all doing Black Friday campaigns, which means that your audiences are being saturated by this messaging. They're actually much more likely to engage and take action during those seasons because they're being inundated. And so some of those things can also come into play. But when we're looking at like, okay, what worked and what didn't, when we start to look at these metrics, it becomes much easier to put fixes in place without feeling really like emotionally tied to the process, where we're like, oh, my marketing campaign failed and everything is terrible. Like actually the marketing conversion rates, like they're really low. So like we're looking at something and thinking, oh, this did really badly, but actually 5% of the people on your list bought something, which is 5 times higher than what I would tell you to expect. So when we start to look at some of these things in more detail, it helps us just like go through that process without feeling like we failed or our marketing hasn't been bad, and having some of these like judgment-based voices in our heads around it all. So hope that helps. And we had quite a few questions about email marketing, so that's why I wanted to spend a bit longer answering that question, because it can be really easy to look at something and think, oh, this hasn't worked. But actually, consistency is the key thing here. When we understand the base rates that we're working with, then it helps us think, okay, actually that did, better than I would have expected, but keep plugging away at it. Like the most successful businesses are literally just the businesses that were the most consistent. So having someone to reassure you and say, no, you're doing great, and yet it feels slow, but that's because actually there's no magic pill unless you're throwing huge amounts of money at marketing and you've got a huge amount of like capital to invest in that kind of thing. And even then, you're still going to take the same amount of time to see return on investment from those customers, because the lifetime value of your customers is something that is built out of trust and excellent customer service and these other things as well. How do you reach your ideal client on Instagram if the majority of their profiles are private? So look at where they are. Like, are they spending time on Instagram because that's a space for them where they engage with their family? Like maybe they're not showing up on Instagram to engage with you in a commercial sense. And so if so, like where are they hanging out? Like, are they in Facebook groups? Are they on LinkedIn? Like Instagram isn't necessarily the only platform. Maybe they're on Pinterest. Maybe they're, reading their emails or listening to podcasts. So understand like where is your ideal customer hanging out. So an example of this is for me, like obviously I teach SEO and marketing, and like that's my job. So I've got a website where you can like sign up for my courses and work with me and all that good stuff. I don't optimize my content for SEO as intentionally as I would if I was reaching a different audience, because actually the people I enjoy working with are creative business owners, and creative business owners often are on social media talking to each other. And so for me, I'm on social media talking to people who I want to help build out and develop their marketing. If I was wanting to work with corporate clients, I would be building out a lot more SEO content on my site, knowing that corporate clients find people through Google and or LinkedIn, for instance, as well. So look at who your ideal customer is. Like, where are they hanging out? Like, is the reason that they're not engaging on Instagram because actually they're using Instagram for something different? And can you approach them and engage with them on a different platform or through a different means of content? What is your advice for service-based businesses with multiple locations with regard to Google My Business listing? If you have multiple locations, from a geo-targeting point of view, ideally you want to have like at least virtual offices in different locations, and that's something that you can set up with Google My Business listings for different locations around the country or wherever it is that you're based, but have an actual location where you can say this is our office address, so that people can send mail that way as well. It just can be reassuring as well. It depends if you mean multiple locations where you've got 6 different offices that are actual locations where you focus on serving people rather than just national. If you're national, then it's you need to focus on national SEO rather than using local SEO techniques like and you'd have your centralized Google My Business listing. Please can you explain the difference between Linktree and whatever it is that later offered me when I signed up, something to do with link in bio? Do not use link in bio services ever. Create a link on your site, and I will send you an example of this on my own website so that you can see. Bear with me while I find this with the dogs. Sorry. How do I don't even know how to mute myself. The dogs always decide to get a little bit sassy when when I'm on a live or a meeting. So I'm sorry that they're getting a bit overly involved in today. Okay, here we go. So like Waffle, mate, you're winding Dougal up, and Dougal's got a very big voice. Here we go. So I have got Andy, how old are you? I don't think that's necessarily relevant to the context, but feel free to ask any marketing questions. So there's an example of marketingwithminextra.com/from the gram is an example of a links page where I would build that out on my website. So when you're using Linktree or link in bio, Waffle, mate, can you calm down? Come here. Sorry. He's got a bee in his bonnet and he's just stood at the end of the hallway barking to an invisible person. So with your Linktree and link in bio, what happens with that is actually you lose SEO juice, you lose demographic information, you don't get to track your visitors with Pixel. Like all of the things that you're seeing on your link in bio can be done on your website, and you can benefit from all the traffic from that as well. I have an IGTV that talks about this more on Instagram. So if you want to find out more about it, go listen to that and it'll basically tell you why I hate Linktree. And hopefully that will be helpful. Okay, so I feel Fiona's got a question about email marketing. I feel that I haven't grasped email marketing. I have a pop-up, but that's about it. Let's pop this in here. And I'm going to, here we go. Share this here. So I feel that I haven't grasped email marketing. I have a pop-up, but that's about it. And I find it difficult as it's not massively visual. I like the idea of Flowdesk, but as a platform, it doesn't seem to push the sales aspect. Any YouTube videos I should watch? Yeah, so with your email marketing, if you're a e-commerce business and you're product-based, then Klaviyo is a really great solution. What lots of business owners don't realize is how much automation can be put in place for your email marketing. And so we get into this idea. Stop it right now. I'm going to rename this Marketing Monday of like Minextra telling her dogs off. So with your marketing, email marketing, so much automation can be built in that allows you to generate revenue from things like your abandoned carts, from your welcome sequence, like these different automated sequences that even if you're not sending a regular email newsletter out to people, you are benefiting from automation, which means that you're not having to actively do things all the time. So you see this a lot in different sequences that you'll be part of when you sign up for things, or, you know, if you opt into a lead magnet from a, you know, advert that you see and you download a PDF or something, often you'll get a series of emails that are all automated, and so people aren't manually sending those to you every time. And so actually there's loads of this automation that we can build into things like Klaviyo that make our lives much more straightforward, but also help us generate more revenue from our website visitors and from our mailing list audience. And that can help us, like when we start to understand that you can get 10 to 25% of your monthly revenue from your email list when you're working with it properly, it makes it much more straightforward to tackle it and to really you know, dive into it with excitement rather than just like, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing with this. So Klaviyo is really great. Flowdesk is a great platform if you're a service provider. So if you're a service provider or you're doing manual launches and stuff and you don't have a lot of automation built in, then Flowdesk is such a nice visual platform. But with Klaviyo, what I would recommend is using some image-based stuff. So going into Canva and creating some banners and things like that. Creating visuals that are more image-based for that platform. So in terms of YouTube videos, I don't have anything off the top of my head, but I am actually launching in April. This is something I've done for my SEO bundle students that I'm going to be making available more widely, is Email Marketing 101, that talks about this and provides some templates and some guidelines and setups for like how you start to build out email marketing in a way that is a bit more straightforward. So give me a shout if that sounds of interest. I can send you the information. MailChimp, yes, MailChimp's great as well. So MailChimp is, again, not as good on the automation side of things as other platforms, but it's a really great platform to start out with. And if at any point you want to migrate your email list to another platform, that's actually a really straightforward process. So the Living House are service providers. And so for service providers, something like you know, MailChimp, Flowdesk, I use ActiveCampaign, but it's a bit more of an advanced tool because it's got a lot more segmentation and automation capabilities built into that. All of these tools are great. But the thing is that when we're building out, it's not like building a list on, it's not like building an audience on like Facebook or Instagram, for instance. Like we can take that audience, that email list that we've built, export it as a CSV, and then do it through another platform like move from MailChimp to Flowdesk or move from Flowdesk to ActiveCampaign, we don't have to stay with that single tool forever. And so just from a freedom point of view, don't spend too long thinking about which platform to choose. Just crack on with one. And then as your business grows, you can always transition over to something that suits what you need a bit more, if that's helpful. So let me just double check. I think that was the last question in the spreadsheet of questions. So I'm going to just go back through the comments and answer any questions that we have got going on here. So Emma has said, I don't have a load of product lines, so important to curate. When I hide a product and then make it live again, it creates a 404 error. Always manage this without comp SEO. Yeah, so if you hide a product, if you hide or disable a product, you would need to set up a redirect link, because as soon as you hide something, that link is no longer visible in Google. So anytime we disable or hide a listing or delete a listing, we need, stop it guys. I don't know what's gotten into you, but enough. So I don't know obviously what the context is if you making things live and things like that, but feel free to follow up on this inside the SEO bundle as well. But basically, if you hide or disable something, you need to set up a redirect for it. So Sarah says, I've got a product business and I've got 139 words which get repeated every time. So I'd need a unique 556 word description for each product for the 20 to 80% split, which is not possible. What should I do? Can you try to reduce the number of words that are repeated every time you write a description? Like 139 words seems like quite a lot for a repetitive item. Otherwise, just do the best that you can. If you can add an extra 100 words that are unique, so that you've got 250 words, but at least half of them unique, then do what you can. Anything is better than nothing. But obviously, trying to reduce down that repetitive 140 words across every single product is ideal. But how can you communicate that in other ways or in more succinct ways? Any companies you recommend for marketing? Yeah, so it depends what you're looking for really, because if you're looking for like paid advertising, for instance, then Soup is a great agency. If you're looking for things like email marketing or SEO, like it kind of depends on what you're looking for and whether you're wanting ongoing support or one-off support as well. So feel free to message me on Instagram if you want more specific feedback or recommendations on that front. So Darren says, I've been asked to do keyword research for an e-commerce business I'm writing the copy for. I think I know what I'm doing, but I haven't done it by myself before and I'm really nervous about getting it wrong. Any tips for nailing it? Thank you. So have you, when you say you haven't done it by yourself before, do you mean e-commerce keyword research or keyword research more generally? If you haven't done keyword research more generally, then I would recommend maybe doing some personal development around that for your continued professional development. If you are taking clients on where you're happy to do keyword research and you're practicing that skill, then that is something that you can obviously benefit from in the future as well. So I would recommend, if you're not feeling completely confident with it, to just like press into a bit more professional development there, and look at getting some additional support. In terms of getting started, the customer journey is basically where I start with all keyword research. So starting to outline some of the different parts of the customer journey, the keywords that you have at each point, and then looking at, okay, this is this is the purchase stage, and these are some of the products. Here are some of the, here's the breakdown of like search volume and so on. So it kind of depends on whether you're being expected to provide a keyword strategy or whether you're just harvesting keywords to give them an idea of like, here's what's out there in terms of search queries. If you're being expected to deliver a strategy, it's really important that you do some more professional development around that, just to give yourself confidence in creating that strategy for someone. Because if you do that wrongly, it can create issues across messaging more widely as well. Let's go down here as well. So Sam says, Klaviyo email marketing, how do I stop my next day thank you flow from sending 2 emails at the same time to the same customer when they place 2 orders on the same day? I think that there's a way of you being able to say only send once to a customer and set up a rule for that. But what I would do is hop on to support with Klaviyo for that, because with ActiveCampaign, for instance, it's really straightforward to just, when you're setting up an automation, you just say, only send this once, and it stops it from sending to multiple people, even if they opt in multiple times. There should be a similar thing for you to do on Klaviyo. So I would just hop on support with Klaviyo and ask them how to do that, and they'll be able to help with that one. Which platform would you recommend for a mailing list? Our website is on Squarespace. MailChimp is great if you're already on that. Flowdesk is great, but you need to set up some automations. The nice thing about MailChimp is that it integrates well with Squarespace, so you can use that. Can the link be done on Shopify instead of Linktree? Yes, you can create a page in your Shopify pages and then build out your links on a Shopify page that way. If you want to make it more visual, you can create images of buttons on something like Canva, export them as a transparent PNG, upload them into your pages, and then hyperlink the image. And then that will create like clickable buttons in a way that Shopify doesn't let you do in a straightforward way. Super. So I think, yeah, so here we go. I created a page on my website called Link in Bio and put everything in there because it was easier than setting up a Linktree account, 100%. So that's the recommendation that I would give as well, is to just create something on your web page. Would you recommend selling on Instagram, or would that help? Yeah, so if you're looking at selling online, then yeah, I would go back and rewatch the Marketing Mondays marketing strategy episode from, I think, 3 weeks ago. It's on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, so you can click through and check that out. And that's going to be a good place to help you get started if you're not sure about channels and things like that as well. So Hannah says, my product descriptions are unique, but each item has additional info, which is identical for each product. Would you recommend getting rid of that section? It's generic things like shipping times. Yeah, so my recommendation is to make that as succinct as possible, like really get it down to like short bullet points. And if you want to have a policy page, you can link out to the policy page if people want to go and check that out. But I would recommend minimizing it as much as possible so that you're not spending 140 characters of the same stuff on every single page. So yeah. Anyway, that's all your questions for today's episode of Marketing Mondays when we had our live Q&A. Let me know if you enjoyed this format, because obviously normally we do like 15 minutes of a specific topic and then questions. That will be the majority of them, like 3 out of 4 if we take a month has 4 Mondays in it. But if you like this format of being able to get a bit more personalized feedback, give me a shout and I will make sure that we have our final Monday of the month as one of these going forward. But equally, if you prefer the format where I teach and then you ask questions based on a particular topic, totally happy to do that as well. So just let me know, and otherwise I'll see you next. No, I won't see you next week because it's Monday, Easter Monday, and I'm taking the day off. And I hope you're taking the day off too. So I will see you in 2 weeks for Marketing Mondays. Meanwhile, if you are wanting some marketing inspiration and you're like, woe is me, there's no Marketing Monday next week, check out my podcast, because that will still be going out as normal, like scheduled out as usual. So you can check that out if you're wanting a little bit of a marketing pep talk to help you. I know a few people work on Easter Monday as well. So hope that helps anyway, and that if you submitted a question, you feel like you've got a way forward. And if you want to submit any other questions to that spreadsheet, it's linked in the description below YouTube and above on Facebook. Do feel free to submit them, and I will either create podcast episodes or Instagram content or email content for those to help. I'm more than happy to answer your questions where I can. So always feel free to give me a shout if there's something that you're struggling with, and I'll do my best to help you work through it in one of these channels. So thanks for joining me for today. And if you are one of my students of the SEO bundle, remember it's our group day of Boxer, so you can pop me any questions on Boxer. And then tomorrow we've got our student call together as well, where we've got Q&As and troubleshooting. So do come along to that if you've got any other questions out of today that we haven't covered in enough detail for you. Meanwhile, enjoy the rest of your Monday, everyone. Hope you have a really nice short week and that you take some time off at the weekend. And I will see you again on live in a couple of weeks' time.